Welcome to SHOWstudio's Fashion Radio, the podcast and video series exploring the remarkable relationship between fashion and music. Every week, I'll be joined by fashion's biggest names and the talent of tomorrow as they share their 10 life-defining tunes and the stories behind them. I'm your host, DJ Fatzoni, and today, holding two fingers up to the world and a whole bunch of sequins and glamour, there's nothing this designer can't do. From dressing everyone who is someone, including the marvellous M.I.A, Madonna, and even Jerry Hall, to having work showcased in exhibitions at V&A and The Met, it was only a matter of time before we welcomed the gloriously wonderful Ashish Gupta to Fashion Radio. Okay, so when did you start in fashion?
I started, I did an M.I.A. at St. Martin's, and I think it's been about 24 years now.
Fuck off. What do you mean 24 years ago?
About
How old are you?
Too old.
No, seriously, how old are you?
I turned 50.
Okay, you know what? It's going to really sound stupid.
Right.
But I did not put you in that category of that age group. I really didn't. Because for me, Ashish feels really young.
Well, I feel like that. I genuinely don't think.
Congratulations.
It's a physical thing.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
I feel like I'm 16 most of the time.
I didn't think that you were in my class at school.
I mean, I think a lot of people have that conception of me. I mean, a lot of people refer to me as a young brand, which I'm sometimes like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And then I think maybe it's a good thing.
I think it's
discovering me.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You're not one of the, that tired old brand. That doesn't exist in that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, I think I've sort of deliberately kept myself a little bit on the back burner. Because I think if you're in fashion at some point, you're going to be out of fashion.
Oh, of course.
It's not really what I do. I just like to make beautiful clothes, and I try to create this kind of magical world, and that's what I do. And I don't really think about it in terms of this season or that season. It's just things I want to make, things I'm really inspired by. And that's pretty much kind of the ethos of what I do.
Yeah, I think there's a real difference between fashion and style.
Yes.
Fashion's accessible to anyone. Anyone can go in and buy fashion, but no one can buy style. And I think your brand, this is my personal opinion, for what it's worth, but your brand is style. It's not, everyone's doing green this season, so let us do green at Ashish. You don't do that. You do every colour. It's a visual rainbow on so many levels.
Yes.
When you go to an Ashish show, you're not sitting there thinking, okay, we've seen this. It's like boom, 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 but in your face. There's so many punches in the face within that show and that collection. And I think that's a really hard thing to pull off.
Well, I think I design every collection as if it was my last collection. That's how I think about it. And if you wake up one morning and you think, I want to do a sequin, rainbow, pajama thing, I want to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because I just think life is so unpredictable. You don't know where you're going to be, especially fashion. You don't know where you're going to be tomorrow, let alone next season. And I just feel like if you have that fantasy, do the fantasy, get the pleasure. Life is too short. Have that moment. Do what you want to do.
Who was in your class at school? Anyone we know? In your year?
In my year, Ibru Erkon was in my year.
Amazing.
I think Emma Cook, I'm not sure if she was in my year actually, but Ibru definitely was. Yeah.
I do love, the whole St. Martin's fantasy is such a great thing.
It was such a culture shock for me, because
really?
I grew up in India.
Oh, wow.
And I moved here to study fashion.
So you went from India to St. Martin's?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a couple of years in between. But yeah, when I got to St. Martin's, I remember walking into an interview with Louise, and she sort of, looked me up and down, and she looked really confused. And it was very funny, the whole moment. But it was a bit of a culture shock for me because I had never experienced fashion or fashion schooling in that way. My exposure to fashion was very different. It came from a very different world.
Yeah.
It came from a lot of Indian cinema. And it came from a lot of my mother's sort of fashion because my mother used to love fashion. So we'd always have fashion magazines in the house. But they were always about 6 months late because India was a closed economy until the early 90s. So we're talking, this is in the 80s. So we'd always have fashion magazines in the house, but they'd always be 6, 7, 8 months out of date because by the time they made it to India, whatever. But I was obsessed. I was ripping out pages from Vogue, and my walls were covered in pages from Vogue. I mean, that was my wallpaper. And it's all I wanted to do as a small child. I just felt it was this magical world of complete escapism and fantasy and glamour and beauty. And that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I didn't know I would actually be able to do it at some point because, if you're growing up in that environment and, my parents were, my grandparents were refugees when India was partitioned into India and Pakistan. And my parents worked really hard, and they're both doctors. And so they worked really hard, and when I remember saying to my mother one day, I really want to be in fashion, and I remember the first thing she said, "Oh God, darling, it's full of drugs and homosexuality."
Hello.
But it was difficult for me to kind of leave that and kind of move to another country where I didn't know anyone. And suddenly go to this scary fashion school, and and Louise was incredible. I mean, she really kind of took me under the wing. And,
amazing.
And that was kind of how I started.
Yeah.
And suddenly I arrived here and I thought, I feel like I'm at home now. Like, I feel like, this is where I should be. And I feel like this is what I should be doing with my life.
Were you obsessed by Indian fabric and Indian, because when you see your collections, there's so much color in India.
Yeah. I mean,
that comes from back.
I think the color for sure, like my thresholds of color, like I remember sitting on a double-decker bus when I first came to England, and I was sitting on the top and I was going down Oxford Circus, and it was like this sea of denim and beige and black and grey, and it was so different from what you see, what you would see on the streets in Delhi or Mumbai, for example. I think the color, definitely, my sense of color, I've got a really high threshold, and there's certain colors which you can't replicate here. There's like an India pink, which just changed that. It's the quality of the light in this country. It changes the way you view color. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of that comes from growing up there. One of my dreams is to be able to do an all black collection. And I find that it's really hard. It's difficult to do that.
Yeah, of course. Where did you go from St. Martin's?
Well, so St. Martin's, and then I went to Paris because I wanted to work in Paris. I never wanted a brand. So I thought, I'm going to fuck off to Paris. I'm going to have this beautiful life. I'm going to work for somebody fabulous. And I was meant to, I think, go and see Sonia Rykiel because I'd met her daughter and they'd asked me to come to Paris. Anyway, so I got to Paris, managed to have my portfolio stolen at the Gare du Nord, as you would.
Yeah, of course.
And then I didn't know what to do because it was all my work. And of course, 25 years ago, whatever, nothing was digital.
Of course.
A fucking idiot walking around this. Somebody thought it was a laptop. So then I'm like, rummaging all the bins outside the Gare du Nord.
Because someone's thrown it.
Sobbing my eyes out. The police just thought it was really funny. And I was like, oh, maybe they've just dumped it in a bin.
Yeah.
They just opened it and thought, oh, what the fuck is this? So anyway, long story short, came back to London, and then I started, I just made a few little pieces, and then a friend of mine actually saw them. Actually, this girl who was a friend of a friend saw them, wore one of the pieces out one day, walks into Browns, and then I get a call from the buyer from Browns, and they're like, oh, somebody's just come in wearing one of your pieces and we love it. We've never heard of you. Can you come in and see us?
That was the magic of Browns.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yes. So then this same friend who'd kind of gone in to wearing this jumper, her husband was a photographer. So they said, we're going to do a little shoot. We're going to shoot your pieces and we'll see what happens with them. And those pictures weirdly ended up, I think, in ES magazine, I think. Mm-hmm. And then I get a call from this girl and I answered the phone and she goes, it's Lizzie Jagger and I've just seen your work and my mom and I want to come and see you and we want to see the collection. I was literally like, oh my God, your mom as in Jerry Hall.
Yeah.
Like,
hello. Yeah.
Hello. So Jerry Hall was sort of like my first client. It was just so bizarre.
When things happen that organically, it's meant to be. It's like what we put out into the universe.
But at the time I was staying at a friend's in a flat in Hackney and I just thought, my first thought was, oh my God, people piss in those elevators. Jerry Hall cannot come into this
But she's pissed in many an elevator. Don't worry about that. So then from there it just completely.
So then it kind of just snowballed from there very slowly. And I was, I wanted to be really cautious because I didn't want to be one of those, I had to earn a living.
Yeah.
I didn't have a passport to live here. I didn't have a work permit. So I had to move to Canada for a little bit because I didn't want to go back to India. So I moved to Canada for a little bit, which was really fun. And then eventually I got New Gen, which is, which was great because it really helped me manage to do my first runway show. And then they supported me. I got it 3 times actually. So I did sort of 3 shows. And then after that, I started collaborating with them and that would pay for the shows.
Yeah.
It was like a huge,
amazing.
It was an amazing, amazing thing because it gave me that space to make mistakes, kind of, because there's so much stuff you don't know, which you kind of learn on the job. And I'm actually happy that we didn't have social media then, because you could kind of fuck up and get away with it a little bit. But that's kind of how it started. And then it just sort of snowballed and kind of got a little bit bigger. And it's a very small brand, even to this day. And I like that. I like that because I like having the control. I like having the quality. I feel like everything I make is made by hand and there's a lot of love attached to it.
I love the fact that you think you're a small brand.
I think I'm a really small.
I love that. But you know what?
An outsider.
But you're not. If you say to someone, "Oh, it's Ashish," they knew straight away what Ashish is.
Yeah, I think there's something really nice actually about picking up your own phone.
100%.
Yeah, and kind of just knowing what's happening and controlling it, and kind of being such a, I still want to choose the music for the shows, and I still want to be really involved in all of it. It means a lot.
Well, it's your baby.
Yeah.
You've watched it grow.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to what did you listen to lift your mood?
So I love a good disco playlist.
No shit, Sherlock.
And if I could if there was a time machine, I would just want to go to Studio 54 for a week. For like a weekend, like Paradise Garage, Studio 54.
I used to go to Garage.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous. That is my thing. And so one of my favorite playlists actually there was a documentary called Gay Sex in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it has the most brilliant soundtrack. And I discovered Tana Gardner because I found that playlist.
Yeah.
And there's such good tracks on there. I mean, there's a track that she does called When You Touch Me, which is just, so sexy. And it's this beat and it kind of builds and builds. And then suddenly it kind of drops and you're like, oh my God, kill me.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks that it's a moment. It's like every time you listen to it, it's a moment. And you can imagine yourself in that moment.
It's euphoric.
Yeah.
And there's that track by Bobby Youngblood called There's Never Been No One Like You. There's No Frills by Tana Gardner. I mean, it's just a really great playlist.
I love the fact that you love that.
I remember the first time I discovered watched that documentary, I was like, fuck, this music is great. What is this music? And then I, went and kind of I think I managed to buy the CD. And we used to have a CD player in those days, actually, when this came out. I think this was in the 90s I can't remember when this came out. But anyway, I had a CD. I was obsessed. It played on loop, literally. It just played everywhere. I was obsessed with it. I was like, this music is just giving me.
What's the most influential track from your childhood?
Well, there isn't one. There is a few.
There you go. All right, let's move on.
No, I'll tell you what. So I thought about this because my dad used to have a really great collection of LPs. Again, with the LPs, they would come in a lot later, I think, than the rest of the world, but we got them eventually. But I remember I felt really ill, actually, when I was very young. I must have been, 9 or 10. I came down with pneumonia and I was really sick. And I'm told I almost died. But I was in bed for about a month.
Yeah.
And all I could do was listen to music.
Yeah.
So guess what I pulled out? Donna Summer Live and More, which was the first live recording she'd ever done. I was obsessed.
I can see why your mum was worried about the homosexuality in the drugs bit.
Love you, baby.
Yeah, incredible.
10-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay? I was like, I don't.
It was written in the stars for you.
Oh, it was incredible. I was obsessed with that track in particular. Then I was listening to, there was an Italian disco band called La Bionda.
Oh, I don't know that.
Right? Oh my God.
I will check them out later.
You have to look at the LP jacket.
Yeah.
There's a track on there called Sandstorm. It is beautiful. It's like, it's like that Nights Over Egypt kind of vibe. I feel like
one of my favorite tracks of all time.
That vibe, but kind of listen to it. But the LP cover is incredible. I cannot just fashion.
Okay, I'm going to go.
Amazing.
We'll look at that later.
Imagery, LP covers, honestly, are such a treasure trove of great design and images.
Totally.
Beautiful. Anyway, that was one. And then the third was Baccarat, Light My Fire. Because I was obsessed with these two women. One was in black, one was in white. It was amazing.
Let's talk about Baccarat. Baccarat is what this podcast is all about. It's music in fashion and fashion music. They are disco.
Yep. And that was me in bed for a month on loop. Like, my parents were like, maybe you want to listen to something else now. No. MacArthur Park Suite. Like the 17-minute mix.
The 17-minute.
Yes.
It's so badly mixed as well, but that's what's so good about it.
I know.
Literally.
I know, but it's so analog. That's what's so nice about it.
100%. You know? It's so raw. It's incredible.
It's raw.
And yes, So I Can Boogie by Baccarat. It's just like the most obvious of all the Baccarats. But, it's so...
It's such an icon. And of course, because it was LPs, you had to flip to the other side, and it was a whole thing. But
so was this your dad's collection?
Yeah, my dad.
I love your dad.
My dad actually had the most incredible collection. I mean, I discovered Lip Sync because of my dad, because he loved Funky Town.
Funky Town is one of my all-time favorite tracks.
So good.
Pretty good song choices to grow up on. Now we're kind of getting to know why Ashish. Do you go and saying shit? Because most people that come on here, they when they listen to their parents' tracks at home, it's kind of Elvis. It's kind of like, that kind of music. My dad would go into Depeche Mode.
My dad had all the ABBA albums. He had Boney M going. There was all this Italian disco. I mean, he loved a good disco record.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What song do you have on repeat?
Well, there's always a bit of George Michael. There's always a bit of Madonna. At the moment, and actually, Erykah Badu always makes her way in.
She's got a habit now.
Didn't you know? Tyrone, like all those tracks I love. I mean, Fleetwood Mac, Dreams,
amazing.
Seven Wonders. At the moment, listening.
Is that what you're on to?
That's quite a lot.
Do you? Because for me, I will find a track and I will just play it. And I never ever get bored of it.
Yes, I mean these are like I mean, some of those tracks that Madonna did, I mean, you can't get bored listening to them.
What's your favourite George Michael?
I mean, oh God, I mean, I wish I'd bumped into George Michael and Hampstead Heath at some point, but I never did. Which is so disappointing. That's not a film. That's not a podcast. That's a film. Trust me. Fast Love, Outside, just because the whole story about that is so incredible.
Yeah, of course.
Too Funky. Faith, the entire album. I was listening to I Want Your Sex yesterday. I was like, fuck, this is so good. I mean, just all of that, I mean, Faith was such an incredible album when it came out.
What is the most important song you heard on the Catwalk show?
Well, so I actually thought about two tracks that I personally love, which I've used for Runway. One is Love Is the Message by MSFB. Which is so great. And then the other one is actually a track by Angel Murray called Big and Hairy.
Okay.
And the lyric is literally, my God, it's so hairy and big. Can I play with it? It's disgusting. It's so fabulous. And we used it in a show where we had these massive cloud wigs. And I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. So, those two actually really I love because they're so funny. But then also a friend of mine actually years ago gave me a mixtape. And on that was a track, which isn't actually a track. I think it was like somebody had mixed, like layered over like a porno soundtrack over a beat. And I think Antonio Berardi might have used it for a show. I'm not sure about this. And there was no way to fact check. But anyway, so the lyrics of this pretty much are, I've got 4 fingers in my cunt while you're fucking me in the ass.
Yeah.
It was just so brilliant.
And Tuesday night.
Just, and I was like, great. I just love that somebody did a runway show to this music.
Any song that's got cunt in it is number one in my chart.
Well, there we
always
go.
Right.
There
Come on.
Dig up this track and send it to you. I've got it on a cassette tape somewhere, and it's so good. It's just so good because it's just the beat is really good and the vocal is really good, and it kind of is just, I can totally see why somebody would use it for a runway show.
Describe what you're wearing. What do you normally wear on a day?
I'm quite relaxed and casual.
You're not running around in sequins.
I'm not running around
and beads.
Sequins. No, because I like to have that distance between me and the work. So I'm just wearing this hoodie, which I bought in Roberta's Pizza.
Amazing.
In Brooklyn years ago, and I still love it. And it's by this really amazing, I think he's a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but anyway, I love it. My trousers are just my favorite pair of black cotton trousers by a designer called M.I.A.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's what I'm wearing.
Do you ever feel like you want to copy them? You know, when you find something that you like and you can't get it again, do you ever think, oh, I'm going to...
I usually, if I find something really good, I try and buy two of it.
Oh, hello.
Because I'm terrified. Otherwise, I'm terrified of wearing it. And it's hard to find things I love.
100%.
So when I see something I really love, I'm like, let's see if I've got an extra one as a backup.
Always have a backup, right? Totally. What song did you listen to getting ready this morning?
So I actually don't listen to music in the morning.
I love this. Everyone says this question.
No, because I'm really in such a rush.
Yeah.
And I just can't. And I'm running out of the house half the time. However, what I do is, because I have really bad insomnia usually, I need playlists to put me to sleep.
Oh, right. Okay.
So for a long time, then I discovered at one point that I started listening to Nigella's cooking shows to put me to sleep, not because it was
no,
because her voice, she's got such a lovely voice.
Yeah, of course.
And it's very comforting.
It's association.
It's just so comforting, and you feel like nothing bad can happen when she's cooking, you know? But then I discovered this album called Weightless by Marconi Union, which apparently is scientifically been composed to reduce your anxiety levels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was incredible. And so I put it on one night and I tried it, and it just put me to sleep. Like, I slept like a baby. But now I have to break it up because it doesn't always work. I think it has a bit of it's become a bit of a placebo thing.
Well, it does become that, you know. Yeah. It's like I take melatonin.
Yeah.
And it no longer works. And I have a better night's sleep when I don't take it. But it's a habit for me.
Exactly. So I have to break it up. So I now do like sleepy playlists, you know.
Amazing. So
at the moment I'm listening to there's this artist I discovered called M.I.A.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful and really beautiful music. And I mix that in with other things. Like I was listening to, last night I think I was listening to Kate Bush, Sensual World, because it's just so beautiful and dreamy. And I just like to have these like Inside of Me by Madonna, because it's such a comforting, beautiful track. It's that feeling of just feeling secure and, you know, I sort of tell myself this thing every night, everything's going to be okay, you know, like if you've had a bad day or if something horrible has happened or you've been really stressed out, you know, and I used to get really bad anxiety attacks. And I learned how to control them sort of, you know, but one of the things I do every night is I tell myself, everything's going to be fine. You're going to wake up in the morning and deal with
affirmation.
It's an affirmation.
Yeah.
But with the music, it kind of just makes me feel very relaxed.
If you could raid anyone's wardrobe or write a song or work with someone, who would it be? Right.
So the person whose wardrobe that I would raid is a singer called Asha Puthli. Who is, oh my God. So she is originally from India, grew up in Mumbai.
Yeah.
Then she became cabin crew for an airline, which was the only way in the 60s, I think, that you could actually get a passport to leave India.
Uh-huh.
So she left India, lands in New York, and becomes this incredible sensation. Suddenly she's at Studio 54. She's hanging out with Andy Warhol. She has this incredible voice. She records this incredible jazz album. And she becomes a bit of a disco sensation.
Uh-huh.
If you just, I mean, it's on YouTube. If you go on YouTube and look at Asha Puthli live performances from the 1970s, I mean, to die for, right? So she sings, there's this one song she sings called The Devil Is Loose, and she's wearing this flesh transparent gown, which is naked. It's a naked dress, and it's jeweled in just the most strategic parts. And she's wrapped herself in this pink feather thing. And it's the most incredible pink. And it's just the most beautiful, sexy, delicious, incredible performance. You know, and what she does with her eyes and her makeup and her hair and just the mic.
Yeah.
it's sex. It's incredible.
But it is sex, yeah.
It's so, so, so beautiful. Then she's off singing a song called Say Yes, and she's wearing Bill Gibb, and there's, 300 yards of fabric. Amazing. And it's all embroidered, and there's layers and layers and layers, and she's got a scarf, and she's got this incredible hairdo, and she's got the most beautiful makeup. I think the naked dress she wears actually is Michael Volbracht, because I asked her about this. But then she's wearing, Larry Legaspi. She's wearing Giorgio Sant'Angelo. She's incredible. She's this incredible woman who just, I feel like, in the 70s should have been this massive, massive, massive disco queen. And I think she was a little bit underground because I think the record companies probably didn't know how to market an Indian disco star. They knew what to do with a black disco star. They knew what to do with white disco stars. They didn't know what to do with her. And I just think she never got her flowers in the 70s. And she's 80 years old now. And she's just gone on her first world tour, which is incredible.
That's insane. I love that.
But I mean, the fashion, the clothes, unbelievable.
Is she going to be wearing a
Bill Gibb, just you name it.
Have you designed anything for her?
I have actually made a dress for her, which she yet has to wear, so we shall see. But, she is an absolute style icon. And check her out, because I think you would love her.
Oh, I'm going to check her out.
She really was that precursor of Donna Summer, disco, all of that stuff. It's incredible what she was doing.
When I went to your last show,
we played lots of her music at the last show. She was there.
Was she there?
She was there. She was front row.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the last show I went to, and it literally there was models of every generation, every age.
Absolutely.
Which I loved about it.
Yeah.
Literally it was like we had every kind of look, every kind of person.
Yeah.
And I love that inclusive, the way that it was so inclusive of everyone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it was wearable by everyone.
Well, I think that's important to me. I don't think that your age or your gender or anything really should define what you can wear and how you can feel. And
I agree with you, 100%.
It's very important. Also, I think the older you get, the more you actually realize how irrelevant it is, just because I think you don't change as a person. You're still that person.
Yeah.
I just find it very odd when people kind of...
I love it when people do get ageist. I just think, well, you'd give your right arm and two legs to become from my era. Do you know what I mean? I come from an era where we had platforms, not a phone in our hand, and we could pretend to be something we're not.
Yeah.
We had to actually be something.
Yeah.
And, and I wouldn't change that for the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, right. Let's go to that one question. What song would you have at your funeral?
Well, I think what I would really like is to play something from the Judy Garland Carnegie Hall live recording.
Amazing. She's not gay. She's not gay at all.
No, not at all.
No.
But
Touching her pearls.
But listen, the pain and the joy and the disappointment in that voice, in that performance especially, is just, it's heartbreaking. And it's so life-affirming. And there's just listening to, there's so many tracks on it that, Over the Rainbow is a really obvious one. But, The Man That Got Away, that it's just incredible. I mean, there's that other track called I Can't Give You Anything But Love, just beautiful, beautiful. And, it's interesting. I'd never seen that film until I came to England, and I first saw it when I was at St. Martin's. And in fact, my final collection on the M.A. was inspired by Dorothy.
Oh, really?
And I remember going into Louise's office, and she said, well, what's your fucking collection going to be? And I said, Dorothy and the Red Ruby Slippers. And she was like, fabulous, I love it. And so I did these crazy, beautiful kind of dresses. And the whole show was this sand pit, and the girls were kind of in these like 6-inch hoka heels that had been dunked in glitter. And they were storming around this sand pit, and it was wild. And I was so excited about it. But, I kind of, that's when I first saw that film. I never saw it as a child. And I didn't know much about Judy Garland. And it's only the last sort of few years, actually, that I got really interested in her and her life. And this kind of unspoken bond we have with someone like Judy Garland, which is so fascinating. But I just think that album is just incredible. Just
you can hear the pain.
The pain.
Voice, yeah.
And her voice breaks. There's times when her voice breaks. And it's just incredible. It sort of, you want to cry.
Well, it's inspiring as well. And because, you know what she was going through. You know where she was at that point in her life. And she's up there doing what she loved to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And she'd been cancelled, and she'd been
was just on and on, and she was like, no, I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to do this. I don't care, I mean, so much had happened by that point. And there she was, I'm going to do it.
I love that inspiration.
Yeah.
So we're going to have Judy.
I think we're going to have Judy. I mean, to be fair, there'll be a playlist, which keeps
what
changing.
Else is on the playlist?
Well,
but it should be forever changing.
It's forever. It's forever changing. At the moment, it's very Judy Garland focused.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Are you going to be buried or burned?
I'm supposed to be cremated. Which is fine. I'm not that fussed about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm gone anyways.
Yeah. But I want everyone to cry and be there for I want drama.
I love drama. I mean, I always fantasize about, oh God, imagine if I watch my funeral, I'd love to see who showed up.
Or wearing old Ashish.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that they bought and they're still wearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but literally they'll all be out wearing it. It's like Vivian's funeral when it's like everyone turning up in their favourite Westwood outfit. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, this is actually a funeral.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah.
But do you get what I mean? It's kind of just like, who's
it's like in Sex and the City when they go to Javier's funeral.
Yeah, amazing.
It's his last collection.
Very last collection. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so what track represents where you're at in life right now?
So it's a track by it's from an album called Out of Season by Beth Gibbons and Rustin Mann, and it's a track called Funny Time of Year. And I don't know if you've ever heard that.
No, I haven't, but I'm going to after this.
It's actually quite a sad track. I think my usual kind of mood setting is sadness.
Yeah.
It's not happiness. But that track is just, the lyrics of it are so beautiful, and it's just about, there won't be any blossom on the tree and it's winter coming, and it's very beautiful but very sad, but it feels like a lot of change happening. And I don't know, just the title of Funny Time of Year, I just feel like that just says everything about how I feel right now about just the world and life and just everything in general. I just think we're living in pretty weird times.
Oh, extremely weird. Everything's going backwards on so many levels. I think that the ability to switch off from what goes on around us, I don't say let's blinker ourselves and pretend it's not happening, because we all know what is happening. But the ability that music gives us is that escapism that we talked about throughout this.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sad music is really happy music. It takes me to a place of contentment. I love to listen to sad things,
and
because it makes me
it just washes.
It really does,
and it's
totally.
It's very I don't know. There's just something I mean, clowns are the saddest people, whatever.
Yeah, right.
People it's this
we know a lot of clowns.
Well, but also people have this conception that if you make colorful sequin clothes, you're generally a pretty happy person, and actually it's completely the opposite.
It's the same with funny people. They're not funny people are never normally the happy people. They're making other people laugh because of their own insecurities around how they feel about themselves. We have music and no one can take that from us.
Well, it gives you a kind of strength as well.
100%.
Especially those types of songs that mean something, or you project your meanings onto them and you make them so much bigger than in your head than they are. Especially that song for me. I mean, that's one of my favorite albums ever. There's so many beautiful songs on it. There's another track called Autumn Leaves on it. Is the whole, I mean, I feel like that whole album is about heartbreak. And it's about but so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And for me, it kind of, I think it really feels like how I feel about the state of the world and how I feel about a lot of things at the moment that are generally pretty heartbreaking.
And we're so powerless around what's going on around us on so many levels.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're pumped full of fear around the most mundane things to keep us. It's almost like the drip feeding drugs to us without sounding like, you know, we're drip fed what we're meant to be drip fed. And it's just enough level of fear there to keep us subdued. And I think that, you know, something's got to give with everything. You know, there's definitely, when I say a revolution coming, I don't mean a physical revolution, but there is definitely a revolution coming within the universe about change for us, because we can't go on the way we're going on.
Yeah.
Whether it be climate change, whether it be wars, whether it be this, whether it be that. It's just so destructive on every level.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think that when you have that much anger and sadness, you've got to have some kind of counter, you know, and I think,
100%.
And this is why I always think, you know, being able to feel joyful or create joy or make people happy through what you do. I mean, you know, I realize I'm not saving people's lives. You know, I'm making frocks.
But you're making people's lives if
I can make somebody happy for a second, or if I can bring some joy through that, that is something that makes me quite happy.
So I just want to say, keep doing what you're doing. And I just, you know, we have a lot of people come on this podcast that I admire. You're one of them. And I think what you do is, with your small brand, as you like to call it,
it really is.
It's a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful thing, and you fill people's lives with joy in dark times. And I just can't wait to see what's next for you.
Oh, thank you.
No, I mean it. It's
such a pleasure to be here.
Well, you know, I don't blow smoke up people's asses.
I know.
I don't. That. You know, for me, I just talk honestly, and I just think that today's been a really, really beautiful thing, because the insight into Ashish and where you come from and your music choices have been amazing.